Every week, the loudest voices try to drown out the truth.
But we're turning the volume back up
From hidden agendas
to expose lies.
to the winds that remind us that America still has fight left.
And yes, we're diving into conspiracy theories too, the ones we forget about until it's not future.
Two hosts, unfiltered opinions.
One podcast.
This is The Right Approach. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. This is episode 7 of The Right Approach. It's been a full week if you put them into days.
This is true.
A full week! How long have we been doing this? Like 2 months now?
Yeah.
2
7
months.
weeks.
That's crazy.
Actually, longer than.
Almost.
Because we took 2 weeks off.
We did. That's awesome. That's pretty crazy. All right. We got a pretty interesting episode for you guys today. Conservative win of the week. Gonna be talking about Virginia redistricting. For conspiracy theory of the week, Operation Mockingbird. Haven't heard about that one.
It's quite interesting.
I'm excited. For Media Madness, we've got, again, an update on Minnesota. And for our main topic, free speech on college campuses. Got some opinions on that one.
So, this week's conservative win of the week, we're talking about Virginia, where a judge blocked an attempt by Democrats to redraw congressional maps ahead of upcoming elections.
Mm-hmm.
Democrats attempted to fast-track changes to Virginia's congressional districts. Republicans then challenged the move, arguing that it did not follow state law. It didn't. A judge agreed and halted the redistricting effort. All this matters because redistricting is not just about politics. It's like a whole process you have to go through. When congressional lines get redrawn, it's a whole thing.
It's a mess.
It's a mess. Virginia has a legally defined method for redrawing maps. That process cannot be bypassed simply because there's an election coming and they want to win, which they won't. The court ruled that the law must be followed even when the outcome is inconvenient for the Democrats.
Which is like the definition of democracy. So they're kind of just throwing democracy out the window because, but we want to win. Yeah, so does everyone else. Duh.
This ruling was not about choosing Republicans over Democrats. It was about whether the rules apply to everyone or not.
There we go.
They do. Conservatives have consistently argued for rule of law over political gameship. The ruling enforces that elections should not be engineered at the last minute, and it protects voters from districts being reshaped behind closed doors. For years, the phrase protecting democracy has been used constantly, but democracy does not mean challenging the rules when the map is unfavorable.
Yep.
The bigger picture, this is a broader national pattern. Courts are becoming less willing to allow rushed redistricting. States are being told to follow their own constitutions. I wonder why. It's their own constitution. Heaven forbid they follow it. And shortcuts are being taken for political advantage are being rejected. This aligns with what conservatives have argued across the country, that process matters just as much as outcomes. Even if you don't live in Virginia, this still affects you. Redistricting shapes representation nationwide. Allowing one party to bend the rules creates dangerous precedents, and courts stepping in prevents power from being concentrated behind closed doors. This ruling reminds politicians that power has limits and legality is not an option. So Democrats can't, I don't want to say skew an election, and then somehow, when we do it, it's a problem. When they do it, it's fine.
They didn't just skew the election. If you want to get into the whole rigged election with Trump, by the way, that was real. It did happen. Johns Creek in Georgia pretty much flat out admitted to it recently. This is something that happens not just in Virginia. It happens all over the place, all the time. You just never hear about it. And that's why we're here. Moving on. Conspiracy theory. I'm really excited for this. I want to know about this. This sounds interesting.
So, this week's conspiracy theory of the week is Operation Mockingbird. It was a real CIA program from the Cold War era that still sparks questions about media influence today. So Operation Mockingbird started around the late 1940s and into the early 50s. What was going around in the 1940s and the 50s?
You tell me.
Russia. Russia was going on. The CIA recruited journalists editors, and media outlets to influence public opinion on the United States and abroad. Newspapers, magazines, and even television were targeted. Stories were planted, shaped, or sometimes suppressed to fit Cold War goals. Yep, you heard that right. A government agency was actively shaping the news that America read every day.
Shocker. Never would they ever do such a thing.
See, when the Nazis do it, it's a problem.
but when we do it, perfectly
it's
fine.
fine.
Absolutely
So how do we
fine.
know this happened? In the 1970s, the Church Committee investigated intelligence agencies, and then Congress confirmed that the CIA had financial ties and relationships with journalists.
Well.
Some reporters were even paid as assets, though often discreetly. The program also used major media outlets to promote stories favorable to U.S. foreign policy. You know what this sounds eerily similar to?
What does this sound eerily similar to?
The fact that we cannot say Benjamin Netanyahu.
That is true. It's almost like someone is controlling the media, but God forbid we ever say it out loud. Crazy.
The official explanation was national security. Always.
Of course.
The CIA claimed, "We're fighting communism. We need to influence information."
The
This
first...
sounds like fascism.
you got two sentences there. We're fighting communism, and we need to influence information. One of them, totally fine, in full support of. The second one, no, that has nothing to do with the other. They don't have anything to do with each other. Stop controlling the media. It's not good.
But from public perspective, it was something else entirely. Readers thought they were getting independent journalism.
Mm-hmm.
We love Nick Shirley.
Yep.
Instead, some of their favorite newspapers were effectively extensions of the intelligence community. And this blurred the line between news and propaganda. And let's start with the scope of the influence. Operation Mockingbird wasn't just like a few journalists in New York, a few journalists in DC, a few journalists in LA. It was in international media. With influence over news in Europe, Latin America, and Asia. It also included radio stations, magazines, and foreign correspondents. The CIA could plant stories that shaped elections, public opinion, or even perceptions of foreign leaders.
So yes, the U.S. government has muddled in other countries' elections.
So think about that for a second. News that shaped your understanding of the world may have been selected, edited, or even guided by intelligence operatives. Why does people still talk about it? Even though the program officially ended in the 1970s, the story hasn't gone away. Media trust is at historic lows today.
Which, honestly, at this point in time, is good. Because I am a firm believer in do your own research. I tell you guys every single week, every single time we come on this podcast, to do your own research. Don't trust what someone else says just because they have some reputable source. You know? Do your own research. Figure it out on your own.
Intelligence agencies still have relationships with media analysts and experts. Anonymous sources drive major headlines, and correlations rarely get the same coverage. Some conservatives argued that the media leans ideologically because the operation and mindset of Operation Mockingbird never really disappeared. This doesn't mean every story you see is fake. It means that history shows that the government has actively shaped narratives before, and people wonder if it could happen again. I think it is. Actively in the world.
100%.
I think this is happening.
Yeah, honestly, I think you'd be kind of stupid to believe every single thing that the media pushes. And, I mean, obviously, look at CNN versus Fox. Two opposite ends of the spectrum, always reporting something different.
Operation Mockingbird is particularly relevant to conservatives and anyone questioning media bias. For decades, conservatives have claimed the media isn't neutral. It's not.
Nope.
Fox, I'm not going to sit here and be like, Fox is the only news source. They're right-leaning.
They are so right-leaning. Okay, so, for example, AP News, they used to be dead center. They're liberal now. It's so bad.
Operation Mockingbird proves that there's a historical precedent for governmental influence in reporting. And it's a reminder that skepticism towards mainstream narratives isn't necessarily paranoia. It's literally documented history. It has happened, and it will happen again, and it probably is happening right now. You can also look at it from a cultural perspective. The Cold War created national fear of communism, and the CIA thought controlling information was patriotic duty. Okay.
No, unfortunately.
And today, people are still questioning which narratives are shaped by ideology, incentives, or government influence. So, the real questions are, if the CIA manipulated media once, could something similar happen today?
Yeah,
Yes.
100%. Absolutely.
How much influence do government agencies still have over what stories are amplified or ignored? So much.
More than you probably realize.
A lot. And how much do corporations and private entities continue to work that began in the Mockingbird era?
Again, probably more than you realize.
The conspiracy isn't that Mockingbird existed. We know it did. It's been proven. And they admitted to it. The conspiracy is that the mindset have never gone away, and we're still living in the fact of we know it could very well be happening right now.
And remember, everyone, if you ever think to yourself, the government wouldn't do that.
They would.
Yes, they would.
They probably are.
Still are. Have been, will continue to, for as long as they so please. Moving on to media madness, ladies and gentlemen, we have protesters turning to rioters. Now, I actually had an interesting conversation with someone recently, someone that I tend to have a lot of really good debates with, and we were talking about something that had happened in Minnesota that we'll get to in a minute, and I mentioned the word rioters, and they looked at me and they said, they're not rioters, they're protesters. And at the time, yes, they were right. They were protesters still. I kid you not, that night, this story popped up and happened. So, January 27th, ICE protesters decided to target a hotel where ICE agents were suspected of being housed. Here's a video showing the incident.
We're also getting the first look at the scope of damage caused by a violent protest outside a hotel where demonstrators believed ICE agents were staying in Minneapolis. Multiple suspects were arrested Sunday night, and new video shows thousands of dollars worth of damage to the hotel. As you can see, windows smashed, spray paint covering the outside of the building. CBP Commissioner Rodney Scott posted online, "This is our Border Patrol being targeted at their hotel in Minneapolis, surrounded, blocked in, glass smashed, people trying to force their way inside. This is not a protest. This is an attack on law enforcement."
A lot of frustration, I can say, from my sources, as you had federal agents calling for backup, and Minneapolis police were nowhere to be seen as they were under attack at this hotel, actually getting into the hotel, spray painting it, and leaving behind, of course, thousands of dollars in damage. Right. Yet again, cops are saying, though, that they really need to break up these groups that are following their every move and tracking them, and they don't see things changing until something like that happens.
The Washington Free Beacon reports the Minneapolis hotel smashed up overnight by anti-ICE rioters was on a target list created by the Twin Cities chapter of Sunrise Movement, a radical group funded by some of the country's most prominent nonprofit organizations, including George Soros's Open Society Foundations, the Ford Foundation, and the MacArthur Foundation.
Quite a crazy video. So these crazed liberals have started targeting places that they can't even confirm themselves if ICE is present or not. They're just doing it off a hunch. Now, this is all happening after the shooting and deaths of Renee Good, who we talked about, and now recently Alex Preddy. Now, Alex Preddy is an interesting case. Despite what media outlets will tell you, he was a violent individual, and the incident when he was shot was not his first run-in with ICE and with law enforcement. Days before the shooting, these videos were released with Preddy's family members pretty much confirming that this individual in these videos were him.
New footage has surfaced showing ICU nurse Alex Preddy in a confrontation with federal agents just 11 days before he was fatally shot. Preddy is seen yelling at officers and taunting them. Pretty's family confirmed their son was the man spitting at an ICE vehicle before smashing the taillight in the video.
Tonight, a representative for Alex Pretty's family confirming this newly released video shows him interacting with federal agents on January 13, 11 days before he was fatally shot. The video shows him kicking a vehicle and agents tackling him to the ground. The video does not show what happened before the incident.
So there's two different perspectives there. One that came out first, and then the second it was one or the other. One came out before the other, and then the other came out. And they just showed two different perspectives of what happened, and one got cut short, the other one showed what happened afterwards. What's interesting about this case is that when all of this first happened, left-leaning media outlets tried to pin the incident and blame a white person by literally changing Pretty's appearance in released photos. I'm going to throw up a picture right here. On one end, you can see he looks not white. Obviously, he's white, but, elongated face, very long, and I don't know how to put this nicely. Just a long nose, long face, And on the other side, typical white guy. Now, people started saying that Pretty was Jewish because of his features. But left-leaning media, once again, shut that down, saying he was not. But why? Well, because a minority causing problems doesn't fit the liberals' narrative. That's it. That's simple I can put it, as simple as it can be. What's even more interesting is after the shooting, the National Council of Jewish Women, which is an interesting group, released this article stating, quote, "After Alex Pretty was shot and killed on Saturday by an immigration and customs enforcement agent in Minneapolis, Minnesota, Jewish voices were among the many that quickly rose up in condemnation. The voices have included both progressive Jewish groups that regularly inveigh against right-wing policies and increasingly mainstream groups that say they represent American Jews from across the political spectrum. The American Jewish Committee, for example, issued an extensive statement expressing concern following Pretty's death. Quote, "In the spirit of American Jewish Committees, AJC, enduring commitment to advancing democratic values in the United States and around the world, we are deeply concerned by the recent violence in Minneapolis and the loss of life connected to federal immigration enforcement actions," end quote, wrote the AJC in a statement, end quote. Now, if the left is so certain that Pretty wasn't Jewish or wasn't a minority, why are these random groups that should have nothing to do with him speaking out on this topic? Nothing's really lining up. Now, don't get me wrong, I don't really care if some random group comes out and says like, oh, this is horrible, I can't believe this happened. But it was a very random group, and they had some interesting choice words. Like I said before, quote, "The voices have included both progressive Jewish groups that regularly inveigh against right-wing policies and increasingly mainstream groups that say they represent American Jews from across the political spectrum," end quote. Pretty wasn't Jewish, supposedly. So why are you talking about speaking out for American Jews? It doesn't line up. Now, I hate to have to say this, but I feel it kind of needs to be said. And you might call me crazy, so be it. I don't really care that these people got shot. Yeah, that's a pretty wild take, but hear me out. You took a gun to a protest knowing it could be dangerous and chose to be violent with law enforcement. When you are violent with law enforcement and you have a weapon on you, they will act in a way that they did because they feared for their lives. You got what you had coming for you. In Renee Good's case, you were deliberately interfering with law enforcement activities and attempted to harm an agent. You got what you had coming for you. Now, don't get me wrong, I am all for open, concealed, and licensed carry of firearms. Take, for example, Kyle Rittenhouse. He was a protester a year or so back who brought his firearm with him for self-protection. However, when law enforcement showed up, he didn't point the weapon system at them. he didn't make any threatening movements. No, he immediately put the weapon down and surrendered without resistance. And that is the only reason why he is alive today, instead of these two. Because Kyle was smart and didn't have a death wish, like most of these libtard protesters, he walked away with his life and was eventually cleared of any charges that were brought against him. He knew the dangers of what he was doing, but still exercised his right to bear arms. And when confronted, he laid down his weapon because he knew if he didn't, he would be harmed. And to those of you saying Pretty did not have a weapon, here's the photo released at the scene of the crime of the weapon. How about them apples? Anyway, moving on. Let's talk about free speech on public campuses, or just college campuses in general, not even public.
So, free speech on college campuses is under pressure nationwide. Public universities face First Amendment challenges. Private universities can restrict speech even more. Students, professors, and invited speakers are affected. Public campuses. So, students, professors are losing ability to speak on controversial topics. Speakers, especially conservatives or challenging voices, are disinvited or canceled. Protests and online outrage mobilize insanely quickly. Administrators sometimes cancel events to avoid controversy. And peer pressure and fear of backlash are just, censorship at this point.
Yep.
Now we get on to private universities. Oh, how great.
Oh, God, these private universities, they have so much... I have so much anger for them on this topic.
They are not legally bound by the First Amendment.
Which is
like
shocking.
Public schools. Administrators can create broad speech codes and conduct policies. Students are punished for joking, dissenting opinions, or even social media posts. Possible consequences are warnings, mandatory sensitivity training, or suspension. Mm-hmm. Monitoring of social media can enforce rules beyond campus. Why this matters? Free speech is essential for education and intellectual growth. Students are supposed to exchange ideas and, debate. We can't.
Nope.
When restricted, students self-censor and avoid controversial topics. We don't.
No, we don't. We don't even try.
Future leaders may never learn to engage with opposing viewpoints because they're all in college and, can't speak their minds.
College is a place that is meant for people to be able to talk about differing ideas, opinions, and ideologies. And they're not being allowed to anymore. And that's a big problem because colleges are indoctrinating people and it's not good. And it's usually for the liberal side.
And apparently the American flag is political.
Oh, boy, do we have something to talk about right after this.
Student governments are blocking chapters of national organizations for ideological reasons.
Mm-hmm.
Universities are canceling or postponing events due to protests or anticipated backlash.
That's the point of a protest.
Professors are disciplined or resigning for teaching controversial material. Broad policies on offensive speech are microaggressions. I'm not being microaggressive. I'm just being aggressive.
I'm not being microaggressive. I just don't like you.
Social media, viral posts spark outrage before facts are even confirmed. Administrators are preemptively punishing students. Online outrage turns classroom discussions into national stories. And then you have the broader cultural impact of restrictions on campus speech affect society beyond classes.
Yeah.
If we're not allowed to talk on campus, what makes you think any of these kids are going to go out into the real world and have debates?
This is the place where they're taught how to do things on their own. If they're not allowed to do it here, they're not going to feel safe to do it anywhere.
Innovation and research are impacted when challenging ideas are discouraged. Students are trained to avoid conflict. And the culture of fear around speaking freely undermines all of democracy.
I don't believe that you should ever try to avoid conflict. Now, let me rephrase that a little. Don't avoid good conflict. There is good conflict and there's bad conflict. Good conflict is debating. Bad conflict is punching someone in the face. Avoid bad conflict, yes. Don't avoid debates.
We do not encourage violence.
We do not encourage violence at all. We do encourage having tough conversations with people.
Surveys show increase in students supporting restrictions on speech they disagree with.
Shocker.
Reports show record numbers of investigations and punishments for speech. Many universities score low on free speech climate rankings. Low rankings indicate environments where students self-censor and avoid controversial topics. Now, you gotta think about the legality. Public universities must uphold First Amendment protections. The retaliation based on speech is unconstitutional at public institutions. However, external pressures from state and federal levels can influence school policies, and private universities have a wider discretion and fewer legal constraints. Now, free speech is the foundation of our nation, the foundation of critical thinking, and colleges should prepare students for life in a world full of disagreement. There's probably 2 people in the world that you're going to agree with on everything, if that.
Yep.
Restricting speech can produce self-censorship and fear of controversy. Students, faculty, and the public must advocate for open dialogue.
We have to.
You're going to disagree with everybody. You have to be able to talk about it. And here's the key question. Should universities protect students from uncomfortable ideas or protect debate discussion?
That's an easy answer. It's protect debate and discussion. If you're protecting students from uncomfortable ideas, they're never going to be able to have their own opinions. Because what you determine is an uncomfortable idea is much different from what someone else may consider an uncomfortable idea.
If speech dies on college campuses, it's going to affect society as a whole.
It's going to be very downhill for our generation, and it's not going to be good at all. Now, let's quickly talk about something that's happened on our campus recently. We're not going to name names. We're not going to name our campus because we'd like to stay anonymous for now. However, we attempted to have a portrait, I guess, or some art display done on our campus with the American flag.
For President's Day.
And it was just going to be the American flag as a background and maybe a portrait of a president from the past. It wasn't even going to be Trump. It was going to be like George Washington, who I don't think anyone dislikes Washington. And some random text. I don't know what it was going to be. The reason it was denied, and it has to go through a whole process of they have to allow it, they have to okay it. They denied it, and the reason for denying it was not the portrait. It wasn't the text. It was because the American flag was in it. Apparently,
there's only 2 days a year that our school lets the American flag be up as a portrait. It's Independence Day, 4th of July.
Which no one is really here for because everyone's gone for the summer.
And Veterans Day.
Yep. Now, we did do something for Veterans Day, and it was great, but we used up that day, and we can't have the American flag anymore. So we are actively, at this moment in time, we have people debating with the Dean of Students to get this changed and to talk about this. Now, this is us doing our part right now, and, maybe if things go downhill in that meeting, we'll name names.
We might see you later.
We might see you very soon. We'll see. We'll let you guys know. And other than that, this has been The Right Approach.